I'm going to be documenting this hike. My name's Greg, and this is a solo hike to Juniper Dunes in eastern Washington, just outside of the Tri-Cities area, specifically Pasco and the like. Yeah, I'm here for the day. I was going to be here for an overnight, but I'm solo hiking this instead. I drove in on some really lovely wavy OHV road. This is all Bureau of Land Management. And then was able to get out here pretty easily, probably because the road's so frosty, in my Forester. And the road does continue on for a little while and eventually gets to the wilderness area, which is where I'm hiking. It's about another 1.5 miles on these very sandy trails here. And yeah, I was out here about 8 months ago, last year, 2024, with some friends. We actually did backpack in. We did not trust the sandy roads with our vehicles, so we ended up having to walk significantly farther than I am today. Today, because I just braved the road on my own. Hopefully I'll be able to get out when I drive out and it's warmer. It was very hot here last time. It gets very hot here in the summertime. Very dry, very high desert climate. But the nice thing about this spot is it's very flat and very open, and as with all wilderness areas, feels very remote, even if it isn't that remote. Especially with this particular wilderness area, you know, I have 5G service here. I could probably take a while, but I could probably walk out of the Juniper Dunes area and to someone's house within a few hours, maybe longer, I don't know. There's also quite a few people that use the OHV area. I'm not sure about today. Saw a couple people parked at the end of the paved road, Juniper Dunes Road, and it seems like it would be a great day for OHV. If I was into such things, I would opt in. There's beautiful sun and barely a cloud in the sky, and just utterly beautiful. So yeah, as I mentioned, came out here a while ago and backpacking was beautiful. It was so hot that we weren't able to really explore the wilderness area. We did a very short hike in it, about a 1/2 mile in from where we set up camp, which was maybe a 1/4 mile from the gate. And it was just incredibly challenging with the heat. It was one of the hottest backpacking experiences of my life, honestly. I think it was close to 100 degrees out, and there isn't shade here. As you can see, it's all sagebrush, and despite the name Juniper Dunes, the juniper trees are few and far in between. And we stayed in the shelter of a juniper tree that had been clearly carved out by former occupants. We are very grateful for that idea, as well as the tree itself, of course, because it was shady, and any shade in that weather helps a lot. As opposed to today, where the sun is welcome. It's 25 degrees out, and the high for today for Pasco is 40 degrees. So I assume it'll get up into the upper 30s later this afternoon. That'll be nice. That'll make it very, very comfortable for a winter hike. And it would have made it a very, very comfortable afternoon for winter backpacking had I done that. I probably would have been okay overnight. Gets down into the teens here this year, this time, which it would have been the coldest I've camped in. Currently, the coldest sits at approximately, well, I think it's about 25 degrees, 24 degrees. And that was just a couple years ago. Ancient Lakes, which is another great spot over in the center of the state near Soap Lake and George and all those little towns in the coulee right along the Columbia. So that was the coldest that I've ever been in, and I was kind of hoping to break that record this weekend, but nope, not happening. Next weekend though, I will be going to Ancient Lakes and looking forward to seeing if we continue to get this cold weather then. It might even be snowing, which actually the last time I camped at Ancient Lakes in the winter was a snowy night. So it could be some additional enchantment. So what's my plan today? I'm hiking the 1.5 or so miles into the wilderness area. I'm not actually in the wilderness area yet. I will get to a gate that is clearly marked, and from there I will enter, and the trail ends very shortly after the gate. There isn't really a hiking trail, though there are some game trails. Last time when we were here, we did follow the trail to its very end, but it did clearly seem like a game trail or a social trail, nothing very formal, which probably makes sense given wilderness areas. I don't know, I would describe a wilderness area as attempting to preserve the wild, and that includes removing trail. So but the entire area is open to human use, hiking that is. Can't do the OHV in there, though I've heard rumors that there may be some spots that the OHV trails enter into the wilderness area from some trip reports, and who knows, I'm not going to be scouting out every nook and cranny while I'm in there. My goal is to basically go further than where I went with my friends last year, which is a pretty easy goal to achieve. I'm also hoping to just explore, do a loop hike, the majority of the wilderness area. And I don't know if that's possible. It really depends on the conditions. It really depends on how easy it is to hike in this kind of terrain, the same terrain that I'm walking through right now, except I won't be walking on well-trodden sand dunes. I'll be walking on, yeah, just the rolling dunes themselves. And that could be more tiring than normally walking. And I did do some scouting out about the length of the trail if I was to do what I'm doing, the length of my personal trail, my personal hike. And it comes out to about 15 miles, which is not a very short hike, is it? In fact, it's something that I have done before several times, hikes that long, but they tend to be hikes not in this type of environment, and not in this season. So we'll see about that. Also, you know, conditioning. It's wintertime. The body is not particularly conditioned in the way it might be in the summer, and so a 15-mile walk even might be a little bit too much to ask for. So my goal is to just check in with myself every couple hours or more frequently and see how I'm feeling. I'm anticipating feeling very tired, even if it is just walking on sand. I'm feeling like I can already feel like a little bit of the tension of just the body getting used to walking on sand right now, and I haven't been walking that long, so we shall see about that. And you know, it might be it's going to be very beautiful. It might be very repetitive, and it might be very satisfactory to call it much sooner than anticipated. I think that's one of the great opportunities of a trailless foray or investigation, is the kind of like just figuring it out on one's own terms, not being imposed to follow the formalities or constraints or norms of trails that have formal starts and formal stops. Certainly that is the majority of the type of hiking I do. In Washington, it's pretty hard to get off trail in a way that feels safe. In most of the federal lands and the state lands and county lands, pretty much everything is tight ship in terms of where you can walk and where you can't, which is good for its own reasons, of course, but I think that these chances to just go where the feet lead are pretty remarkable and special. And I don't think I've done many of them in my life. One I particularly remember is White Sands in New Mexico, which is another similar choose your own adventure kind of situation. And then also Denali National Park, which is quite famous for its trailless expanse and where you can go and how you can find yourself. So yeah, any chance I get to intentionally do something like this is a good one to take. And I also find that because I'm not backpacking in and I'm not having to think about the logistics of camp or setting up where I'm going to be, I have the opportunity to focus more on where I am going, the transients, the transportation from point A to whatever. But anyway, I'm going to end this little contextual video, and my goal is to, I guess, turn my GoPro on and use it maybe either at every waypoint that is noteworthy or on an hourly basis. So I'm now thinking I could have probably driven even further than I did. I'm still just walking, and I feel like this is even easier terrain than what I drove earlier. So it goes. I mean, it's a nice little warm-up, I guess. Anyway, all right, I'll leave it there. Let's see what happens. All right, so it was only about a minute after I ended the last video that I got to Wilderness Road, which is kind of the last section of this sand dirt stuff before we get to the gate. Should take about 15 more minutes to get to the gate, and probably won't show up with this resolution, but you can kind of see more juniper trees over there, and that's where we're going today, way over there on what is my current horizon. So the nice thing about this area is that it does not feel impossible. It doesn't feel questionable. Certainly not being able to see where you're going when you're on this small wilderness road, for example, leaves a lot to be questioned. But having done it before, and even knowing it was relatively flat. Oh, here's a vehicle. Yeah, so We are not in the middle of nowhere yet. There's humans here in their trucks, and knowing that it's not the middle of nowhere is a nice feeling. Was distracted. Yeah. Like even the trip reports and exploring the the terrain on maps, it keeps things pretty optimistic around here in this trail, in this area. At the same time, seems like a great time to visit because I don't hear any motors. That truck being the only motor I've heard since I've been out here. Last time, all the OHVs, the dirt bikes, the four-wheelers, all that stuff. One of the really obnoxious things was having to listen to that. Even from within the wilderness area. I mean, we weren't that far in, as I mentioned, but just having to listen to it all night long, it's kind of a creepy dystopian serenade, especially when you know that you're in what is designated as wilderness, but you're surrounded by petrol-fueled machines not too far, you know, within earshot. We also had the surreal moment of hearing the coyotes come nearby, and that's pretty common for this landscape. It's something I cherish any opportunity I can get to hear the songs and the wails of the coyote. So beautiful and amazing. And yeah, to have that mashed up or juxtaposed with the OHVs was particularly disturbing. Even now, as I walk by along this road, well, I don't quite see them anymore, but I'm seeing coyote track, lots of rabbit, and maybe squirrel, ground squirrel. Yeah, there's plenty of wildlife out here, and maybe, but probably not in terms of encountering things today. All right, I'm gonna end that one, and we'll get in touch when we get to the gate. All right, so the last video got messed up because of battery issues, but we're now at the Wilderness Gate. Here it is. It's not much to speak of, but as you can see, it does provide a barrier from the vehicles and other larger things that one might want to pull through there. And it is right next to or adjacent to a major thoroughfare for the OHVs. This is, even though the signage is lacking, this is really crossing over into the spot that we want to be in. The spot that I am intending to explore today. So, as you can see, here we are. We're now in the wilderness area. There's no evidence of anyone here right now, but there are plenty of relatively fresh boot and shoe tracks going off in various directions, and you can kind of make out a path, and that's the way we went when I was here last. And those darker structures over there, those are the juniper trees, and that includes the juniper tree that we stayed under. So I'm gonna head over there now and see how that tree is holding up. All right, we made it to the tree, and lighting is terrible, but this was the tree that we stayed under. We'll climb up there and take a look. It's 10:11, which makes it about a 30-minute walk from this tree to where I parked the car. As you can see, this is a fantastic shelter here. We have all of the lower limbs. Thank you, tree. I know, all the lower limbs. It's a bit brutal to see, but they've been carved out. The tree is obviously still very healthy and probably really, really old. But yeah, this is where we holed up in that 100-degree heat back in 2024. And at this point, knowing that it's about 30 minutes. This is where it gets fun, because it's like, okay, where do we go? How much time do we have? Also, you know, I have organic maps on my phone, which is fully usable offline, but if something happens to my phone, I need to be aware of following the arc of the sun. And from a distance, this tree is not going to look any different from maybe any of those trees over there, or these trees, of course, or any of those trees over there. So it's a bit hard to wayfind, I would argue. Everything kind of looks the same. It isn't an endless space, though, and I think one important thing that's really useful in dune environments is knowing that the dunes sit up higher, so you can see the direction a bit beyond where you would if you're in kind of the lower sections. So here it's very easy to see, maybe not in the GoPro, but you can see Mount Adams right over there, and you can see a bunch of agricultural structures, and knowing, and of course, whatever that ridge or very kind of horizontal mountain is there, knowing that that is generally the direction to be moving in is a good thing. In terms of how far over to the south, that is to be determined, and hopefully it'll all work out. The other thing is, there is a road on the other side of the wilderness area, which was kind of one of my arguable destinations, to get to that road and then kind of loop back. That would make for a full minimum 15 miles of walking, so it might not be possible. We'll see. I will say, so far this terrain has been super comfortable. It is melting a bit, so it's a bit wet, but it's firm. It's easy to walk on, and yeah, with all of the sun and everything, it's only going to get nicer out. So that is another thing that will hopefully keep me moving. I don't know when I will do the increments of the videos. I am thinking maybe, like I said, either a waypoint of some kind or something worth noting. I do like the idea of getting all the way over to those trees, that tree line there, and checking my map and seeing how deep I am into the wilderness area. We had thought about those trees last time we visited. We did not make it all the way out there because it just was too far in the heat. And then when we did the short hike in the evening, it's like, well, it's dark out anyway. We can't really see anything. Also, it's a fun fact about this area is that because it's desert, you get desert environment critters, and that includes, as I learned, black widow spiders, which I don't think are going to be out right now, but it's kind of interesting to consider what makes the wilderness wild, you know? What are the things that we can discover and see here, and yeah, how do we relate to those things? How do we process them? How do we hone our awareness and explore them? And the opportunity to do so, especially when there are no trails, there's no other people to distract, maybe no other animals will show their faces, I don't know, that will allow for a lot of processing time. Okay, until the next. All right, it is 10:40, and let's see. I came from that way. This was the kind of the big tree I could see in the distance that I walked to. The trees, at this point, I'm not sure exactly which one is the shelter, but it's over there. We've still got the beautiful sun, and then that horizon of trees is still right in front of us. We're about to actually hit what looks like the wall of trees. I'm gonna make my way that way to those trees and then check my map and probably cut left. I'm hoping also that elevation gain will give me some kind of vantage down into the other side, or not, or it'll just keep going up and up and up incrementally. Can't really know until you're over there because of the curve of the earth. But ultimately, at some point, cutting up and going north that way, essentially just following all of the juniper trees. And ultimately, the road, the other road that I mentioned, is way that way. I think about 6 or so miles, which doesn't seem impossible at this point. And then, of course, the loop, I believe, would just have me meandering back in this direction and then getting back to the gate over there. A couple things of note. I'm standing on sand, so the dunes are all the way out here, which is pretty sweet. Doesn't feel like dunes of you know, every place feel this way, because there is so much grass, there are so much shrubs. Much of the sage is pretty big, actually, and then there's a lot of tumbleweed in this this season that has to be navigated through. Right on the other side of that tree, there's a giant kind of bowl, and in that bowl is masses and masses of tumbleweed. So thankfully the whole trail has not been that way, but it's around, and they're pretty thorny, whatever variety of tumbleweed it is. And then I also saw my first wildlife in the wilderness area, and that was about 5 or 6 white-tailed deer. They, I believe, moved along basically on the other side of this little hill here, this dune, and they were running, actually. It was kind of interesting because in forest, it doesn't seem like deer often run. In the movies, deer run. When I see animals out in the desert running, I'm often thinking of caribou and not deer. So, you know, I could also be incredibly naive, and that's fine too. But it was cool to see them, know that they're around here. Deer, symbolically, in many indigenous cultures, are witnesses. They witness, they watch, they observe. They are a opportunity to reflect and mirror our experience. Take a moment in the quiet that the deer offer, the gaze, think about what we're doing and who we are, which is beautiful. Yeah, so in that, I'm going to plop on down right here and write for a little bit and maybe eat an apple, and then proceed to the first, in my mind, real destination, which is that line of trees. All right, so we've now hit the wall. It actually didn't take very long to get to this from the last stop, but heading over to that high point, to the where I'm facing right now, that would be in the opposite direction of getting to the far end / going north. So I'm hoping there will be some additional possibilities for vantage up ahead. This is clearly these little dunes here, like where I'm at, and over there, very clear formations. These appear to be some of the higher spots in this area from what I can tell. So I think, yeah, aligning myself with them when I can, for example right here, is a good choice, just for getting one's bearings and feeling the benefits of quote-unquote being on top of the world, just to see what's going on. More birds, though I haven't seen them. No more mammals. Some pretty big holes in the ground for possibly some, I don't know what kind of animals in the desert burrow. I imagine not coyote, but maybe bobcat or badger or something. Try not to mess with any of those, give them proper space, keep my voice down when I pass them, but otherwise just keeping on. From here, You know, the question, of course, is always going to be time. I don't have to get out after or before dark because I have a headlamp, though it's going to get a lot colder after sunset, obviously. And that could mean, it's not like I'm not prepared for that, but if anything went wrong, being outside in 20s or teens gets a little bit more problematic, especially after dark when visibility is even lower. So yeah, I don't know. The sunset is around 4:45. It's about 11 a.m. So that still leaves plenty of time for going out and then also heading back. It's also nice, this whole region is so, relatively speaking, flat, and as a result, I think that the skies will be pretty clear and bright even after sunset, even in the winter. So I am pretty excited about that. Oh, there's some scat. Not sure, that could be cat or coyote. It doesn't really look like, I don't know what it looks like, but it's got the juniper berries. It's not terribly old, so that's exciting. Yeah, time. It's all about time. But from here, I'm not quite sure what my plan is in terms of the next video. Maybe if I get over to that patch of trees way back there, which is, you know, the far end is probably a mile from here. Checking in when I get over there, and also checking my map and seeing how far I am to that other road, how deep I am in this wilderness area, what other corners or angles I can select as I move through the day. Okay, I'll leave it there, and yeah, until then. This section is utterly gorgeous. Like, I just walked across, and I'm continuing to walk across all of this beautiful grassland. There's green grass growing beneath, which is obviously pretty wild, given it's January. But so comfortable and pleasant. Even got some of this. It's really nice. What do you call that? Help me out. It is very remote feeling now because there's no visual to where I came from. I can still see, obviously, the horizon over there, but at this point it's like, okay, I can't just like turn around and walk. I'd have to somehow find my way back to that gate. So that is nice. I also, with all of the trees here, it feels much more like a forest. So I've been asking myself about the habitat and what animals might be here versus back where I was earlier, where it was more open and the spread of trees was a little bit less dense. Yeah, I also looked at my map, and I'm about 3.5 miles of dune walking to the road, which would probably mean, yeah, I mean, and also this looks like it could easily be a habitat, maybe even occupied right now. So I'm gonna go around that. 3.5 miles up, 3.5 miles back, plus the 3 miles total, I guess, maybe about that, to go all the way back to the car. Seems doable, but it might be pushing it. So at this point, I'm gonna really lean in to the terrain and let the terrain guide me. Now, the last time I was here, one of my friends mentioned that somewhere in the dunes there is rock slab Whoa. What is this? Somewhere in the dunes, there's also a mysterious structure. What is this? It's almost like you can't hunt in here. So I don't think it's one of those trap style shelters. Oh, it's like a trough, I guess. It kind of looks, yeah, I mean, it's a trough or something, but very interesting. But I wonder why, like, they would need to put that here, because you would think wilderness, the animals and creatures of the dunes would be able to figure out water. So I wonder, because also wilderness area makes me wonder, they're not going to have stock here or grazing, I don't think, but I guess it could be possible. Yeah, I don't know. It's very curious. I was not expecting to run into any kind of human-made elements, and it makes me wonder what other human-made elements might be in here somewhere. Lots of game trails, you can see. Probably they all lead to that. And yeah, as I was mentioning, there could be some kind of rock formations here. That also is just hearsay. I have not seen images or read about anything like that in trip reports. I imagine, however, with what I am going to be covering today at a minimum, I would at least be able to see it from a distance, unless it's tucked into some corner of the wilderness area, in which case there's a chance I won't see it. So at this point, I will set my timer for an hour from now, because I don't really have much of a destination in front of me that I can see at this point, and I will yeah, check in then. So I'm now on a ridge, and I got the vista that I wanted. The vista shows more tree line, and then more dunes, and then more tree line, more dunes, and what is presumably beyond the dunes. So I'm gonna spin this around, and I'm heading in this direction. I didn't bring my binoculars, but there appears to be structures way over there, very close to the horizon at this point. But then we've got all of this, which is immediate, and then that might be more dunes, or it could be beyond the dunes, some agriculture, and then what looks like the dunes continue over there with more juniper trees and that kind of stand. And then I've been coming this way. Part of me is a little bit confused, because I want the terrain to dictate where I'm going to go. I am still heading in the direction of that road, which presumably will be past, well, somewhere in between where the trees end and where those buildings over there are. I would much rather walk through juniper covered terrain than just the dunes. I think that's more interesting, but yeah, I don't know what's over there, and I haven't been able to see any geology other than the dunes. No rock structures, no slab, no signs of where that would be either. However, on the other side of this dune, which I just inadvertently walked down the side of as it's going up, there is a view of another potential route that I could loop back and take to get back to the gate later on, which, if I get up here, is over there. Yeah, over past these trees. there's another line of trees that goes over there. So it'd probably be very similar. I imagine it will be nearly identical to what I'm walking in now, which is fine. It won't be shocking or anything, I don't think, but at least it will be fresh and different in some ways, I think. For now, my plan as I continue to figure things out is to just keep heading. I'm gonna walk on this ridge here for a bit, and you know, one of the things you should always know, or at least this is how I do things, is if I go down, that means I might have to come back up. And as much as I want to go check out that whole area down there, or at least walk through it, it's kind of cool. That might mean going down a very steep incline and then having to retrace and come back up a very steep incline. One other thing, I did see 2 ravens flying together and very vocal today, that's another great sign. Not particularly mesmerizing or anything, but it's just good to know that they're out here and they're inhabiting this space with me today. So, speaking of terrain and where the terrain takes you, I found a fence. I found another fence. I found a gate over there. And this was what I was looking at earlier, saying, probably not going to go over here. I ended up getting directed over here because I looked at my phone map, which for some reason the GPS, I don't know, maybe I was hallucinating or something, but it sent me over here. It looked like this was the way to go. That is fortunately easy enough where I came from. That direction is the Wilderness Gate, somewhere over there. And this fence goes that way. And so what I'm going to do is basically follow this fence a bit and then loop back around. Now, in terms of where that road is, at this point, I don't even know if the road is accessible because of fences like this. For some reason, I thought the road was over here in this direction, and then my GPS threw me off. So essentially what it comes down to is I'm gonna head this way a bit and maybe go to where those patches of trees are, and then spend the rest of my time, unless I encounter anything else that's wild, looping back through the tree line and heading back towards the gate that way. I make it seem really easy. That stretch there was pretty freaking tiring. A lot of up and downs with pretty big dune walls. And fortunately, it's pretty warm out. I did take off my coat, but standing here, it's getting chilly again, so I might have to put it back on. We'll see. So far, so good, though. Nothing otherwise surprising or shocking. But yeah, the idea of getting turned around has now officially happened, and I've been spun around, and that's wonderful. I think it's... I don't feel lost, but I feel relatively lost in that I'm disoriented, and that type of feeling, at least especially knowing that this is a container, it can be entered and exited, it's not going to change, it's stable, makes the disorientation pretty enjoyable. I also did notice, this is kind of why I wanted to come over here, some discoloration or multicoloration, polychromatic kind of stuff going on with the pale and the lighter colors there in that dune, exposed dune. So I was hoping to actually get onto that, but I am not going to mess with someone's gate when I know it's not like an official gate for this property. That said, probably will shift the timer back an hour from now. I'm slowly making my way through what is so far the densest juniper forest of today. These are massive trees that are, at least some of them are 30 feet or higher, and they're dense. Seen some birds in them, almost kind of like a quail or ptarmigan. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty tired. I just wasn't realizing how much each dune wall would be in total. Thinking of all of the elevation gain combined. All right. The GoPro tends to do this thing where when the battery is about 20%, the screens freeze and there's like this discoloration on the screen itself, and I don't know, it's weird. I think those are third-party batteries though, so hopefully I've switched over to the 2 GoPro brand batteries. Hopefully they're better. Having a nice superfood bar, lunch part 1, I guess. Got some birds, crows or ravens behind me. Yeah, I'm sitting in the thick of this juniper forest and loving it. Been following deer trail mostly, winding my way through. The elevation gain, as I was mentioning in the last recording, which may or may not have picked up, it adds up. It's pretty intense. I mean, like I said earlier, being winter, it's not really time for much conditioning for me, and I would imagine I've gone well over 500 feet gain total now at this point, with all the little ups and downs and the big ones. Again, not a ton, but you can feel it for sure. And it's sand too, which has its own qualities. They want to be friends. Might be a baby raven or a baby crow friend. But otherwise, everything's going well. I've decided that like I can use my GPS, even if the directional thing is weird, which I think it is. I think it is weird. I can use it to essentially tell me how far it's going to be to the gate or the shelter tree. Like right now, I'm 2.8 miles from there. So just keeping in mind, it's probably not a 20-minute mile. It's probably a 30 to 45-minute mile. So, you know, I can keep going, but I will want to recognize that that is the case also as I keep going forward, exerting energy. It's going to take longer to walk. I'm going to be tired. So I don't know. With all the like meanderings, I'm not sure if I'm going to get up to 15 miles total of hiking. I'll find out later. I still want to try to shoot to get back to the gate. Maybe getting back to the gate by 4:30 would be a good choice. So that would mean heading back between 2:30 and 3, walking back like for sure walking back towards as directly as possible to the gate. Right now it is only 12:40, so I do have quite a bit of time. Of course, I could go back sooner than I expected, but I kind of want to keep going further north through this forest, and I don't think I'm going to get to the road today, but with all the detours and blah blah blah, but at least I'll be able to see more of the wilderness area to the north. All right, so it has not been an hour. I'm finding myself having more to say the deeper I go, and And the more, yeah, to my point earlier, the more tired I get. It is just about 1, and if I look north, I can see that the forest thins out quite a bit. So I'm kind of like on the edge of the densest part of the forest, which I just walked through. Super beautiful and amazing. It does dense out a bit, and the rolling nature, you can't really tell, but like it goes down pretty deep there. So what does that mean? I guess I'm getting it more and more exhausted. I'm not like out of it, but I can just feel it. And part of me is wanting to, instead of heading into the potential, dunes, just ongoing dunes towards the structures that are off there in the horizon, that farm, heading west and kind of staying in the sun too, which is nice to think about, keeping my eyes a little bit blinded by the light. And as I head, oh, there's our friend who's been keeping me company. Hello. This whole time. Like that bird has been following for a good 20 minutes now, which is great. Oh, it looks like it's been a minute, but there is some garbage here. I should probably take that back with me. So that's what my new plan is, to head west and then see what's kind of facing the more northwestern section, which is, I should get a view eventually of the view I had from the beginning when I was starting out the Wilderness Gate. Eventually I should have that, and then I can head back towards the Wilderness Gate and mosey and not really worry about going fast or slow, given that I'm kind of at my northernmost limit, I think, at this point, in terms of heading due north. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and we'll see where that takes us. Just had my second lunch break. The hour timer went off, and I was climbing up a sand dune. I was like, all right, the top, I'm going to sit down and take a rest. And I'm kind of on the the western edge of the wilderness area now. You can probably hear the fatigue in my voice. Trudging along, I've been like following game trails with a lot of intention and trying to actually follow just the flattest parts instead of literally going up and down every dune I come across, which has helped. But I think a lot of the stress on the muscles has been done, and so I'm walking at a slower pace, but still in a great position in terms of the time of day, in terms of the position between here and the gate. I'm about 2 miles north of the gate, so I just gotta basically like hug this here border. I mean, you can't see any border, but there is a border. There probably is a fence over there at some point. We are also back in the land of the OHV. I'm able to hear one OHV, one vehicle out there, which is, I mean, it is what it is. It's what this place is. So I will say it was very nice being back in the forest over there, that dense forest that is now behind us. It was so quiet and calm, and the crows or ravens or whatever they are were keeping me company, and other birds, and just following the trail and following the track and making my way from sun patch to frost patch. was quite nice. I'm gonna try to make the most of the hike back around. It is not 2:30, it is only 1:45, but one thing I was thinking is if I am essentially heading straight south to get to the gate, there may be fewer opportunities to go easily around dunes the same way I have kind of been meandering northwest by west to get to where I'm at now. And so that might be kind of brutal on this last leg. But I think it'll be fine. I mean, yeah, it should be fine. It'll be nice. I think I'll probably make it out as the sun is just before the sun sets, which is slightly earlier, like a tad earlier than I was expecting. But at the same time, you know, this has been such a great experience in terms of expectations and formulations and planning, and also just throwing a lot of that out the window and feeling the land and feeling the body and acknowledging both and making decisions with both. Really is an excellent place to just be in a way that is unlike most places I am and I be in my daily existence. So I'll probably do another hour timer, or unless I don't think I'm going to get to the gate before an hour from now, but you never know. We'll see how far and fast I go. Okay, it is the last break of the day, 2:46. I'm sitting right near the gate, the wilderness gate, and you can see some of the earliest trees. I think that one is the shelter tree, I believe, maybe. And yeah, we did it. We did a loop through Juniper Dunes. My body aches. I will have to still hike the 30 minutes or so out to the car, and I'll report back there. But before I leave, I'm just gonna have a nice final snack and some water. All right, let's try that again. Wow. That battery seemingly also has a big issue, so sweet. Just got passed by 2 OHVs, and now I'm walking. I think I see the tree that I'm parked under in the distance. Yeah, I'll do a final recap there, but I will say it's getting a little bit chillier as the sun recedes into the sky, and I should say past this area, and there's a little bit of wind that's been hitting me since the gate. So I feel very lucky today to have come here with the weather being so kind, so very lovely. I don't know if I would have been able to do this and or feel okay if it had stayed in the 20s all day. That would have been a completely different experience, and maybe a short-lived one, though. I'm reminded of my once upon dreams of backpacking out here in the cold. I think if I did that, I would probably opt to camp out here, maybe just backpack to the first cluster of dense trees, which would take quite a while, I think, and then maybe not do as much exploration and hiking and just kind of stay put. The joy of being in those junipers is the solitude and silence. The issue, I suppose, is not having as much exposure to the sunlight. So camping in the winter, I mean, ideally the conditions would be like today, even if colder, even if snowy or outside on the ground, having a nice sunny day back to back would be preferable. And with that, it would be, I think, a lot easier to just kind of feel rooted, feel the comfort, but also feel the elements. All right, a few more steps and I'll be at the car. I'm approaching the tree. Something I'm considering is, how good would this road be for an all-wheel drive vehicle? It's especially pertinent because it feels similar to what I drove in on, just not as wide. The other issue, now that everything is melted and the sand is actually sand and not frozen sand, how will it be getting out of here? But those are the things that I will learn in the next few minutes as I pack up and head out. This was a great day, a great experience. I hope that it was somewhat informative and enjoyable to see the scenery through my lens. This is the first video for this channel, or whatever is going to come of these videos will hopefully lead to future videos and future documentation of my explorations. So yeah, I'll keep it authentic, I'll keep it personal, and appreciate any comments you have, any thoughts. Maybe you can answer some of the questions I posed due to my ignorance. And yeah, see you next time.